Hello and welcome to the Monsters, Myths, and Mayhem podcast, take 2. We tried to record last time and had some technical difficulties, so this is our second attempt. I am Silverwing, my fellow host.
Chaotic.
We are joined by a special guest today.
What's up? It's Mondi.
Mondi, what are we here to talk about?
The Egyptian gods. Well, a god, not Slifer, Ra, or Obelisk. The famous ones. We're here to talk about Anubis.
I'm pretty sure Anubis is more well known than the Egyptian gods from Yu-Gi-Oh!
That's debatable.
So Anubis. Would you like to say anything about him, or you want me to go on with the info? Since we kind of recorded this last time, you had just kind of mayhemy media stuff.
We'll let you go along. You sound more educated than I is.
Close, maybe. We went to the same school, so it's debatable.
So did Chaotic.
Ish, part way. You were in the same school for the same amount of time. There's the bird.
Bird, the word. This is Chaotic's way of dramatically increasing the pressure. The dramatic pause.
We try and get her to choke on her food.
Between that and the infant yelling in the background, there's just like no hope right now.
Infants don't yell. They very loudly communicate. I know. I has one. I'm sorry, Silver. Go ahead.
Well, I guess we'll get started on Anubis. Anubis, he is from Egypt. He is one of the Egyptian gods. Anubis is actually his name in Greek form. His Egyptian name is either Anpu or Inpu, which meant to decay, which kind of signifies his association with death, as he is the inventor of mummification. He is known to guard the dead, judge the dead, a lot of stuff with the dead, which we'll go over. None of you have seen him. It's probably a lie. You just haven't known his name. But he is Anubis.
Oh, wait.
Sorry, distractions on screen, you know?
Full distractions.
This makes it into the audio. Chaotic is currently being beaten up by what looks like a 1-year-old, and the 1-year-old is winning. Hence the pauses and delays. I believe we just got done talking about Anubis' mummification fetish.
I was going to do his description, what he looks like, for those who do not know what Anubis looks like. Anubis is depicted as a black canine or jackal dog hybrid with pointed ears, or as a muscular man with the head of a jackal. The color black was chosen for its symbolicism, not because Egyptian dogs or jackals were black. Black symbolized the decay of the body, as well as the fertile soil of the Nile River Valley, which represented regeneration and life. He was thought to have developed or came about as a response to wild dogs and jackals digging up newly buried corpses at some point, as to kind of figure out a way to keep bodies from being dug up, which is why he made the mummification process, as well as being the god of mummification in the afterlife. He is also a patron god of lost souls and the helpless. He is one of the oldest gods of Egypt. He is thought to have kind of morphed from or came from an earlier jackal wolf god called Wepawet, with whom he's often confused with, which I believe he is a war god. They had a cult formed around, but he has a wolf head, not a jackal head. He is also Anubis is also the earliest deity to have been depicted on any of the tombs of the Egyptians. He is the earliest Egyptian deity depicted on tomb walls and invoked for protection of the dead, and is usually shown tending to the corpse of the king, presiding over mummification rituals and funerals, or standing with Osiris, Thoth, or other gods at the weighing of the hearts and souls, part of the soul, in the Hall of Truth in the afterlife, which was one of his jobs, to weigh the souls or the heart against the feather to see if your soul was good or bad. If it was bad, you would get completely erased. If you were good, you would get sent to the afterlife, or the Duat, to the Field of Reeds. Anubis was the sole lord of the dead for a while, till Osiris's myth have become more popular, and then later Osiris kind of took on the role that Anubis had of Lord of the Dead, and Anubis kind of took on the role of right-hand man of Anubis. Even though Anubis remained very popular, he still kind of stayed second in command, doing more of the judging and the mummification rituals than just residing over them.
Like Anubis is probably a lot more well known as well because he's got a jackal head.
Yes.
Like everybody knows the jackal head from all the Egyptian stuff that's depicted.
Yeah, it feels like they put Anubis in a lot of media, used him for, what's those things you go when you buy and you take from places?
Souvenirs.
That's the word. He's used on a lot of souvenirs.
Who doesn't want a jackal headed guy? Osiris was more human looking. That's normal.
Yeah. You know, Chaotic loves her monster men.
Not you making a joke when I can't even come back correctly because I'm holding a demon, okay?
So, believe it or not, Anubis, his lineage is a bit weird. It is said that he has two different parentages. He is said to be the son of Ra and Haset. But after his assimilation into that was his first set when he was the Lord of the Dead. Was Ra and Haset was his parents. But after Osiris came along, his parents were said to be Osiris and Osiris' sister-in-law, Nephthys. I think Nephthys. Nephthys was Set's wife, but she was attracted by the beauty of Osiris, who was Set's brother, and transformed herself to appear to him as Isis,
Yes.
who was Osiris's wife. Osiris then slept with Nephthys, and she became pregnant with Anubis, but abandoned him shortly after his birth in the fear that the affair would be discovered by Set. Isis found out about the affair, went searching for the infant, and when she found him, she adopted him as her own. Set also found out about the affair, and this is given as part of the reason for his murder of Osiris. Set did murder Osiris. Kind of leads us into another story, which is why Anubis kind of wears leopard skins. So after Set murdered Osiris, he wanted to finish the job by completely destroying the rest of the body remains. Isis scooped up Osiris's body parts and took it to Anubis. Anubis was set to protect the remains as well as mummify Osiris's remains in order to kind of bring him back. And so Set found out Anubis had Osiris, disguised himself in many ways to come and attack him. But his last try to attack Set, last try for Set to attack Anubis, he turned himself into a leopard, and Anubis had a branding iron and just started branding Set, which is kind of how Egyptians are said to, how Egyptians say that leopards got their spots. By Anubis branding him. Then after Anubis killed Set, he skinned him and wore the leopard skin as a warning to anybody else who tries to mess with the mummification ritual and the dead.
So, if Anubis skin Set, is Anubis wearing a leopard skin, or is he wearing a Set skin? So when Set transformed back to Set, did he have his skin?
I think he died as a leopard,
Ah,
and so he stayed a leopard. So he's wearing his uncle's skin, who was a leopard at the time.
Egypt has such nice family ties.
I think that's pretty much all gods. Greek, Norse. Look what happened to Loki. There's a lot of things that happened to Loki.
I mean, Anubis did go from, hey, big god mode to, hey, now Osiris is my daddy.
I'm not going to say that's wrong because it's not.
But it's wrong.
He literally became his dad. And by the time this story about Anubis and the leopard came out, Anubis was also said to be command of an army of demon messengers who inflicted suffering and death. And it just came out in left field, but it was with one of his jobs of being the defender and inflictor of curses, which I think everybody's seen in movies.
Open the tomb. Win stupid prizes.
Pretty much when you open a tomb, whether it's Egyptian, Celtic, North American, Anubis kind of went by many titles with as many jobs he had. He was known for First of the Westerners. It was kind of meant for King of the as a title for King of the Dead. Lord of the Sacred Land, referencing the area of the desert when Necropolis was located. Necropolis were located. He who is upon his sacred mountain, referencing the cliff around the He who is upon his sacred mountain, referencing the cliff around a given necropolis, where wild dogs and jackals would congregate. Ruler of the nine bows, ruler of the nine bows, a reference to the phrase used for traditional enemies of Egypt who were represented as 9 captives bowing before the king. The dog who swallowed millions. His role as kind of represents his role as god of death. Master of secrets, since he knew what waited beyond death. He who is in the place of embalming, indicating his role in the mummification process. And lastly, foremost of the divine booth, referencing his presence in the embalming booth and burial chamber.
Metropolis, huh?
Metropolis.
Guess that's not to be confused with Metropolis. Otherwise, he might run into Superman.
I'd imagine Necropolis is kind of more like Gotham.
This is the Batman.
I mean, with the ears, one might think so. His jobs that he oversaw was Osiris's protector and right-hand man. He oversaw mummification. He assisted Osiris in the judgment of the souls of the dead. I mentioned a little earlier, he did this with a scale. He took a human heart, he balanced it against Ma'at's feather of truth, which was said to be a big flightless bird. It slipped my mind. Big bird.
Flightless bird?
Yes.
A dodo?
No.
Ostrich.
Ostrich. So you had your heart on one side and an ostrich feather or Ma'at's feather of truth on the other. Weigh against. If the feather weighed more, the person's identity would cease to exist, and the hybrid deity Amit would eat the heart, and the soul would be destroyed. But if the heart weighed the same as the feather, the deceased would pass through the underworld or the Duat and into the afterlife. Known to be the Field of Reeds, from what I heard. Since the Egyptians believed in the concept of Ma'ats, which meant order, peace, and balance, death was regarded as importantly as life. Therefore, Anubis was a major part in the transition from life to death and back to life again. From what I kind of seen in other sources, there's like 44 different gods you had to talk to, and they all had to pass you. You had to go through all these trials, and there were 70 more after that.
Pretty much, this was the cycle of reincarnation. You had to score 100% to come back.
Pretty much. For the pass on. That was kind of all my info, I guess, I'd have about him. I had a story that was pretty long that I can tell. It's the tale of two brothers.
Okay, so this myth is a little different as it fits outside of the Osiris-centric mythological canon. Instead of the normal cast of Egyptian gods and goddesses, the ancient god Bada starred alongside Anubis. Anubis's younger brother Bada would, I hope I'm saying that right.
And I pronounced it Barters, so I think you're doing well.
Worked on his brother's farm. One day while they were doing chores for his brother, he ran into Anubis's wife. She was quite taken with what she saw and invited him to bed with her. Shocked at this invitation, Bada told her, "You have been to me as a mother would, as you say, is an abomination." He promised he would tell no one of the incident so long as she never spoke of this again. Anubis's wife, however, had other plans. When Anubis came home, she pretended that Bada had beaten her, saying that he had propositioned her and struck her when she declined. Now enraged, Anubis attempted to kill his brother. Try as he might, however, he could not harm Bada. Divine intervention prevented Anubis from taking his revenge. The next day, Bada told Anubis his side of the story, and he demonstrated his convention by cutting off his penis, his dick, and throwing it into the river, where it was eaten by a fish. Having done this, Bada told Anubis he was leaving for the Valley of Cedars, saying, "There I will take out my heart and place it high in the cedar on a flower, and if the tree is cut down, I will. I appear to die, but if you spend 7 years seeking the tree and find it, place my heart like a seed. In water I will live again. You will know you are needed when you find your pot of beer in a froth." Bada arrived in the valley and lived alone there for some time. Sympathetic to his loneliness, Ra Herakati?
I thought it might have been Hecate, but
Herakti?
Hecate?
Herakati?
Yeah.
Ra Herakati and the god Num or Kunum.
Kum?
Is it silent or is it like Kunum? Kunum?
I think the H might be silent.
Make Bada a wife in his potter's wheel. Bada and his wife were happy for a time, but this happiness would not last. The 7 Hathors, soon came to Bada and warned him that his wife was fated to have an unhappy end. Bada loved his wife dearly and told her to take great care since he knew of her prophesied fate. He also told her about his heart at the top of the cedar and how that if the tree was cut down, he would die. One day while walking along the beach, the sea tried to catch Bada's wife. She managed to flee, but the sea snatched away a lock of her hair. Eventually, this lock of hair made its way to the king of Egypt, who was enchanted by its lovely aroma. His advisors determined the hair had come from Ra-Herakati's daughter and sent out search parties to discover her whereabouts. When the king found her, Bada's wife told him the secret of her husband's heart. These women, unfaithful.
Yeah.
She also explained that Bada would die if the tree was cut down. Wanting her for himself, the king had Bada's tree cut down, causing Bada to appear to die. At the same instant, Anubis noticed his pot of beer frothing and knew that it was time for him to seek his brother. While he found his brother's body, Anubis was deeply saddened that he could not find his heart. Before he returned home, Anubis decided to take a cedar berry as a memento. Unbeknownst to him, this berry was actually Bada's heart. When Anubis returned home, he put the cedar berry in a cup of water. The berry did not sprout as a normal seed would, but instead revived Bada's body, which Anubis had also brought home with him for a burial. Upon drinking the seed, Bada made a full recovery. In the interim, Bada's former wife had married the king. In an elaborate scheme, Bada turned himself into a bull. I love that. Which Anubis presented as a gift to the king. Through a series of transformations, Bada became a splinter that... Oh... Bada became a splinter that the queen, his former wife, eventually birthed into a baby boy. Eventually, the king died and the prince, Bada, took power. At this point, Bada testified against his mother wife, who was disgraced. Bada appointed Anubis as his crown prince. When Bada died many years later, Anubis succeeded him as king. How twisted, being like, you hate your ex-wife so much, I'm gonna make her birth me, take over her kingdom, and then be like, get rid of it. That's like long-term villain planning.
Especially because you had to be a splinter. But how do you go from a splinter to a baby?
Logic. Clearly, you didn't know if you got splinters, you have birth? None of that?
No, I did not know that.
Don't get splinters. Don't get splinters. Don't leave them in there.
Ah. That's what they're calling,
No, stop. No. It was cut off.
You already cut it off. He had to turn into a splinter to make one. That's all it was. Yep, he just got it.
That poor fishy.
Okay, I think you got something completely different than me and Chaotic. Okay.
I was just thinking like, Bada was so loyal to Anubis, he was literally like, look, bro, and then just chopped it off in front of him and chucked it. And it was like, okay. And then he became the splitter and went, boop. And
If I can't have kids, I'll be my own kid.
Yeah. He just proved that he didn't need it to have kids, because he can have himself.
With his ex-wife.
/ mother now.
Yeah. Oh, let's move on to the Mayhem and media.
I don't know, I'm pretty sure cutting your penis off is pretty mayhem-y.
Yeah, but that wasn't Anubis.
Yeah, well, you know, not wrong.
Media-wise, I know Anubis was in Dislight, which is a new phone game. They gave him like a dapper appearance.
Was that the one where
He is dapper. Leave him alone.
Drew?
Yeah, they call him Drew. They call Anubis Drew in Dislight.
Like, super elegant. I've seen the preview for the game.
He is elegant. Look at him. Fantastic beast.
Is he in Fantastic Beasts?
Oh my, listen, Ryan.
I believe he is also in Assassin's Creed. Comes about. And also many Egyptian-based movies. I think he's in The Mummy. Pretty much anything Egypt-wise, they throw Anubis in, just because he's so well-known. Yeah. If you pretty much just want to see Anubis, search anything Egyptian media or souvenirs. Yeah. It's on with the Mayhem. Mayhem-wise, I don't think Anubis would be mayhemy myself if he's just doing his job. I think it'll be more mayhemy if he's not doing his job.
I mean, I stand by, round one, what I said. I feel like he has the capabilities to start shit if he wanted to, but I feel like he's one of those people where he's like, you just mind your business, I'll mind mine. No big deal. Like, don't step into his palace. Don't mess with his women. Don't mess with his brothers. Like, you'd be fine. But like, when you start messing with shit, he's gonna come fuck you up. I also feel like he wouldn't as a mass affect anybody. Like, I don't feel like he'd come up and wreck everybody's shit. I don't see him doing that.
I feel like he would do that if, say he's messing with people start messing with the pyramids. Like, we've already seen what happens when they say it's King Tut's curse. But Anubis is in charge of all the curses and stuff. So he's just like,
I mean, you're not wrong.
you're in here.
I feel like he wouldn't. I mean, and this is just me being biased because obviously, like, even the Bible has shown us that not even children are safe. But like, I feel like he wouldn't, as a ruler of death in the kingdom of like their underworld. I don't think he would want to see like innocent children. So I would say that he would still have some kind of morals upon that. But then again, you know, they are gods. They have, you know, whatever. But I like I said, I kind of correlate him with Hades attitude wise.
He does have his own scale in order to choose, find innocence of the truth to be said, if they are actually innocent. So
Imagine your kid dies and you're like, oh my gosh, he's such an innocent soul. And he puts him on the scale and he's like, that is a 10 pounds of pure fucking evil, ma'am. 110%. 10 pounds of pure fucking evil right there.
Not all children from less than 1 to 0.
Yeah, well, the scale would tell.
Yeah.
you just did that on a scale that was completely just fried my brain. 1 to 0.
I went from 1-year-old to like newborn.
Couldn't you have just said, isn't there any child under 1?
Look, my brain doesn't operate the same as your guys's. This is why I'm always asking questions on the Discord. Which y'all should do, by the way.
Oh, phooey. But what if Anubis left his job? Would necromancers reign supreme in Egypt? Because he's not guarding the dead? Was that how mummies are? Is Anubis on vacation when mummies show up?
Like live mummies,
Yeah.
like when they come back to life, reanimated mummies. Maybe Anubis just decides, like, maybe he just sees a mummy get up and he's like, you know what, I'm not fucking dealing with that today. Today's not the day. So he just lets him go. He's just like, you know what? Go ahead, buddy. You have a good day.
He's busy with his brother's plan, trying to make him turn into a splinter.
Yeah, busy eating seeds that are really hearts and shit.
Yeah.
You know?
You could just be admiring his work, like, look at that pile of band-aids stand up. I did a good job wrapping that.
Yeah, and then they get caught on something and it unravels, and he's like, "No, it's time to nope, get back in your pyramid. We're done here."
Well, that's all I can kind of think of.
I have a question.
7.
So I don't know. Oh my,
Okay.
I don't know if you will know this or not, but obviously, like the Sphinx, they're the ones that guard the pyramids, like the big, like headdress lion Sphinx.
Things that lose their
Statues?
nose.
Yeah. Did he create those and place them there? Or is that like a raw thing? Or like who do you know?
I do not know.
Not see anything in my research.
Maybe they're just their own. Maybe they're. Well, Anubis does command demons. Maybe they're actually demons that he commands to guard.
I thought sphinxes were more holy. Demons kind of like just sprout up and they're
It's raw.
Raw? Yeah. Raw.
I figured it was raw. It was a more raw vibe, but I just wasn't sure because obviously they guard the mummies a lot of times. So I just wasn't sure. Like they're in front of the pyramids.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure if it was like a Anubis thing, like he was like back the fuck up, or if it was Ra, because I know the dynamic between Ra and Anubis is pretty lit. So I just didn't know if they were helping each other or if it was just like an Anubis straight up thing.
I guess they're just helping.
It's crazy because like when you see the little statues of them, they're so detailed on like their bodies and stuff. But then the big statues are just like slabs of rock that aren't very detailed. And then you get to the face and you're like, detail.
the face is what scares everybody.
Yeah, it's the face on the Sphinx body that freaks everybody out. This portrait is terrifying of them.
We'll have to do spin.
It's like an alive Sphinx, like a non stone Sphinx climbing up Oedipus, and it's terrifying.
I did have a few like details on Anubis, like superpowers he had.
Go ahead.
He's a god, so of course he had like superhuman speed. He could run faster than a man or any human athlete. So if you get in a car, you can pretty much outrun Anubis. but I'm not entirely sure if you can outrun his curses.
Probably not.
And he can lift 30 tons.
Okay, so Mr. Peabody and Sherman. I was talking about that last time we played. Jesus, last time we recorded. If you haven't watched that episode, it is a kids show, but it is the Egyptian episode of Mr. Peabody and Sherman. Hilarious. Like, they have to feed Anubis and he keeps spitting out fire and they think they have to sacrifice to him. And Mr. Peabody and Sherman are just like doing a bunch of haywire shit to get them to believe that Anubis is really like this like big doomsday death, like creature. And it's between him and the Ra statue. It's just hilarious. Like, they talk, they pretend to be Anubis. It's really funny. But there's a lot of little educational things in there. It's one of my favorite things to watch with the kids. It's one of the only things I'll watch with the kids. I'm going to send Matthew the little 3-minute, 40-second scene clip from YouTube so he can watch it. But yeah, it's hilarious. If nobody has checked it out, it's good Anubis content.
We can shove it onto the Discord too.
Yeah.
Watch the clip. It'll be worth it. Start conversations.
Yeah, okay. So Ra requests that the little girl marries the god himself, and Mr. Peabody and Sherman get in Anubis's mouth and pretend to be him, and they're like, no, I totally talked to Ra yesterday and he said that's a no-go, so you guys can just stop. You're going to lose your deposit. It's hilarious. It's good stuff.
Go check Patreon. Monty's here. He's one. Thor's the other one. That's Chaotic's turn.
Join us again next Monday on Monsters, Myths, and Mayhem, found on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Anchor.fm. Silver and Chaotic talk about how monsters and myths came to be and how they would be received in modern-day society. Follow, like, and subscribe to support. Also find the podcast on Twitter and Discord with the links below to keep up to date with the newest merchant activity. Besides, who knows what Mayhem will get into next.